Hello and welcome to CATSweek. I'm Annalise Poorman. On January 5th at the Election Board meeting, Election Supervisor Karen Wheeler updated the board on the recount of District 62 ballots between Dave Hall and Penny Githens.
And so on the state, which is the District 62 representative between Penny Githens and Dave Hall still kept his title as representative from District 62. It included 3 counties, Olive Branch County, I believe 3 precincts from Jackson County, and 29 precincts from Monroe, which was like 18,500 ballots. I'm rounding that up or off there. It went incredibly well. Also, they started on a Tuesday around 3:30, finished around 6 or 7 that night, and then they reconvened in the next day and finished on Wednesday, and they were expecting to finish on Friday and maybe even run into Monday. So it went extremely well. We had a lot more people working on that one. And the end result there too, I believe at the beginning, Penny was behind by 40 votes. And with the end, it was it 74 vote difference so Dave Hall won by 74 votes there. Of course, that didn't all come from Monroe County, and so it was between the 3 counties. But it was pretty fascinating to see how it's all done and the precision and all the things that go into it. It was worth watching. Hopefully we never have to do it again.
Chief Deputy of Monroe County Circuit Courts, Tree Martin, broke down the numbers of the election. Board member Donovan Garlitz asked Martin about the technical portion of the vote margin.
So on Penny Githens, the state counted 10,615. We reported 10,620. For Dave Hall, they counted 7,904. We counted 7,897.
So it was a swing of 5 different votes in Monroe County, correct? Mm-hmm. Is that what I'm hearing?
Difference, yes.
Well, that switched because it's the same number on both sides.
Yes.
So that would make up for a margin of 10 in the tallying, but either way. The reason I was asking is I was curious to see if these were all adjudicated ballots, manually adjudicated ballots, or ballots that were perhaps scanner errors, because I believe that 5 votes between a group of 3 folks or a group of 3 different folks or 5 different folks from the state could easily be changed.
Oh, yes.
Due to human error and or their opinion. That's what I was just curious about.
Well,
Martin explained how voter errors work and how ballots get adjudicated. Garlitz questioned if the vote difference occurred during early mail-in voting. Martin said that could be the case, but added that it also could be an issue with voters incorrectly filling out straight party tickets on Election Day.
Well, when the voter scans their own ballot and they've overvoted, the scanner spits it back out and tells them that you have overvoted, and they can cast ballot as is. So that race is not counted at all. But when someone votes by mail, they don't have that opportunity. So those are the ones that the election board adjudicates on election night.
Correct.
Because the scanner picks out that vote and shows it to you guys when you're sitting together. And then you choose whether to accept that vote or let it go, reject it. When humans do it, they can look at the ballot and say, they did overvote, but look, has an arrow that says, take this one, where they can accept that one, where the scanner will not.
So my assumption would be that of the 5 votes that were changed, it's unlikely, without knowing the procedure of SBOA, in and out, it would be probably the difference in those early mail-in.
It could have been
ballots.
Also too, sometimes people, instead of filling in the straight party ticket, instead of filling in the circle, they'll fill in the icon The scanner doesn't accept that, but when the state board was there, they made a decision to accept those.
So it could have been
It could have been
election day.
those.
Interesting.
Yes.
Board member David Henry thanked all of those involved with the recount. However, he pointed to 17 missing votes in Brown County as a cautionary tale for future elections.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, I just wanted to take a moment on this particular point and say a few words. First, I wanted to thank Clerk Brown and the staff of the election board for the recounts. It is a corner of Indiana law that is rarely executed, but when we do have a chance to do it, I think we proved that here in our county, the work was exemplary, and I think that was also recognized by the State Board of Accounts in their communication with you. So I want to thank the clerk and the staff for executing a very detailed recount in our community. As Karen had mentioned, Donovan, the 60-second was shared, of course, in other counties with Jackson and Brown County, and the experience that, at least as a petitioner, and I can speak in that capacity today as the petitioner in that case, was very different. Brown County, I think, is a cautionary tale for those of us that are working in great counties. To pay attention to what happens when a community does not house all of its election materials in one location. In Brown County, there were 17 ballots that were lost that have never been recovered, and so in that manual recount. And so as the story was told, and trying to find every ballot to manually recount, there was a bit of a paper chase to the county commission's office, to the county council. And so I think it's a good lesson to keep in mind as we think about how to store these materials from election day onward. And as a tale for us to follow there. So again, I just want to thank this board and this clerk and this county for great work done. Thank you.
The recount confirmed Dave Hall's victory over Penny Githens in the House District 62 race. And we'll have more Cats Week after this message.
I'm at risk of thinking there's just no point in trying. I'm at risk of looking in the mirror and hating what I see.
I'm at risk of regretting what I do, just to join the crowd.
I'm at risk of being told not to tell. And you would never know it by looking at me.
But with Girls Inc. in my corner,
There for me, every day. Believing in me.
Showing me what's possible.
I can be strong enough to respect myself and my body.
to say I can rather than I can't,
To say no with no apology.
To be a leader.
to finish school,
To own my future.
To break the cycle.
Girls Inc. believes every girl can succeed. That's why the trained professionals of Girls Inc. are there for our girls every day, supporting, mentoring, and guiding them in a safe, girls-only environment. Building bonds that last for years and change that lasts a lifetime. Girls Inc. gives girls the tools they need to boldly face challenges, to resist peer pressure, to be the first in their families to go to college, to beat the odds. With Girls Inc. in her corner, every girl can be healthy, confident, and resilient. She'll do more than dream about her potential. She'll reach it.
With you in my corner.
with you in my corner, I will not be another statistic.
I will fight for myself.
For my future.
With you in my corner, I will win.
Fuel her fire and she will change the world. Girls Inc. Inspiring all girls to be strong, smart, and bold.
Welcome back to Cats Week. At the Monroe County Board of Zoning Appeals meeting on January 4th, petitioner Renewing Properties, LLC, asked the board to approve a zoning variance for 8482 South Fairfax Road. Land Development Services consultant David Gilman explained that the request is unique because they are attempting to turn a 10-bedroom home into a rental property, which falls in between the zoning guidelines for both tourist homes and hotels.
Renewing Properties LLC is petitioning the board tonight to establish a 10,000 square foot, 10-bedroom home to allow for short-term lodging. In your chapter 802 of the ordinance, there is a definition for a tourist home, but that limits it to 4 bedrooms. Anything greater than 5 bedrooms, technically by definition, would be considered a hotel. The difference in the distinction from what we're asking this board to consider in our use variance versus the definition of a hotel, or what you typically would think of as a hotel, is that you would have to lease the entire 10-bedroom single-family home. We're not interested in leasing any individual bedrooms or half the home. It's basically going to be a luxury short-term leasing 10,000 square foot home for families or group.
Gilman said that the construction would not have any adverse impact on the surrounding neighbors since it would take place inside the house.
Please. So what I've done is I've shared the findings of fact because I think it's very important part of your decision-making process for today. We believe we met the findings for a use variance. We do have a 16-acre piece of property that is unique. It's uniquely shaped. It's part of a mixed-use area along Fairfax Road. It's been vacant for 23 years. If there were a user or a buyer that wanted to purchase this home as a single-family dwelling, we've had some very good times in our economy. It would have been a good piece to snatch up. Crickets. My client bought it because he felt that it would be a great opportunity to use the resources and experience they have in rehabbing larger structures, and then offering the place to allow people to experience beautiful Monroe County near the reservoir and the Four Seasons. We don't think the grant will interfere or be injurious to the general public because all the construction inside and out will be done to city code county requirements before it can be occupied. And I think just recently the septic's been installed to accommodate a 10-bedroom. So the septic's good, the construction will be completed and supervised through the county. And then again, should you grant the variance, we would agree to go through the commercial site plan review with your staff. The home is well buffered and would have, in our opinion, no adverse impact on adjacent property values. We have no intention of removing those trees or doing any clearing. That's part of the beauty of the isolation of this property that we've seen. We're not requesting a rezoning. We're only asking you to grant us a very specific use subject to a plan of operation, commercial site plan review, and the residential elevations and the footprint as you see it today.
The board voted 3-1 to pass the variance under the condition that the house cannot be built any bigger than the existing 10 bedrooms. Margaret Clements voted no, and Dee Owens abstained. During the January 3rd meeting of the Bloomington Board of Public Works, the board heard an appeal from a local resident who received a noise violation. City Attorney Chris Wheeler explained the details of the alleged violation.
This is Chris Wheeler with City Legal. I have with me Officer Thomas Kruzman, who was the issuing officer on the notice of violation, or the ticket, if you will. The staff report that I presented to the board for consideration outlines what the controlling ordinances are, the language in those controlling ordinances identifying, most particularly in this case, that any sound that is clearly audible to a person with normal hearing from any place other than the premises from which the source of the sound is located, when the sound occurs between the hours of 9 p.m. and 7 a.m., is prima facie evidence of a violation of this section, and that is section 14.09.030 C4. When that type of event occurs, all we need to do is show from the officer who issued the ticket that he has normal hearing, that he wasn't on the property and could hear the noise, and that it occurred between 9 p.m. and 7 a.m. On any given day.
Bloomington Police Officer Thomas Kruzman gave his testimony about responding to the noise violation.
On the evening of August 20th, going into the 21st, officers, we had received upwards of 4 to 5 calls from different parties about noise violations in the 1300 block of North Washington Street. Upon arriving there, one of our other officers encountered a large party at 1320 North Washington Street and also 1319 North Washington Street. The other officer issued a noise violation to 1320. After we had handled that one, there was still loud amplified music, large amount of people coming from 1319 North Washington Street as well. So I had proceeded over to that address where I had met with the party that was issued the ticket, in this case, Brandon Schermersheim, who identified himself as one of the tenants of the property. He was aware that the party was ongoing and stated they had had a large party the night before as well. So he claimed to be a tenant there. The music was still ongoing. It was a loud amplified system outside of the residence sitting on the porch. We had him shut that music off, and then he was issued the noise citation.
The board voted unanimously to deny the appeal. And we'll have more Cats Week after this message.
For hurting families in Monroe County.
A contribution to children who are vulnerable and in need of an advocate.
A staff that goes above and beyond to support and advocate for children in need of services.
The web of remarkable people who are dealing with difficult situations.
So many young people that are in need of help and trying to find a stable family, a stable place to live. Without the CASAs to make that happen, many of them would be unable to find a good home.
I love being that voice for the child who can't speak for themselves in court.
It takes me out of my comfort zone, and it also helps others.
CASA means supporting our community.
Being a CASA is making sure that your village is healthy and whole, and that the children in your village will someday be able to help the village as well.
A child who doesn't have a voice, maybe in their family situation or a school situation, now has a voice that can advocate for them.
I really enjoy working with children that are going through difficult times and letting them know that I care about their future.
We are privileged with our charge of representing the best interest of children. And so therefore we can advocate for exactly what they need without restriction, focusing on their best interest.
Welcome back to Cats Week. At the Bloomington Utilities Service Board meeting on January 3rd, Utilities Engineer Phil Peden asked the board to approve a Community Development Block Grant from the Housing and Neighborhood Development Department.
Hello. Good evening, Phil Peden, Engineering Department. I think this is one of those contracts that you like to see. It's money we are receiving, $110,000, and it's towards stormwater improvements in community areas where we've found flooding issues that we were trying to resolve with some new bioretention ponds, which is kind of a fancy word for a green infrastructure detention pond. It holds the water back and it filters some through the soil.
Board member Amanda Burnham asked where the near West Side Waterman neighborhood is located. Peden responded.
Yeah, so Waterman's neighborhood is west of Adams, and it's between Kleindorfer's and JB Salvage.
That's easy enough.
Kind of where the railroad tracks are through that section.
And this is just more of a technical question. In reading this over, it looked like we were having to pay this 110, but we're getting this back?
Yes.
Has the work already been finished?
No, only the design work is complete at this point. And we covered that cost. We hired engineers to complete that.
Okay.
And then we'll use the grant to do the construction.
Great.
Board member Kirk White asked for clarification about whether or not the grant would pay for the project up front or if they would be reimbursed for it. Peden said they will be reimbursed. The board approved the grant unanimously. On January 3rd at the Bloomington Redevelopment Commission meeting, Director of Housing and Neighborhood Development, John Zodi, gave his monthly report.
Happy New Year, Commissioners. Wanted to just briefly mention that, as I've mentioned before, the city is being allocated about $2 million in funding from the American Rescue Plan through the HOME program that HUD administers, and part of that process is the development of an allocation plan for those funds, and we are moving through that process now. I've been getting different community input from the required organizations and things like that. We will have a public hearing on that plan in February at one of these meetings, so we'll get the proper notices prepared and all of that, but that will have to be up for public comment during the first half of March and submitted to HUD by the end of March, and so we'll want to make one of these meetings a public hearing for that. So just wanted to give you a heads up that was coming down the pike for February. So that's it.
Commissioner Randy Cassidy asked what the grants could be used for. Zodi responded.
This $2 million has to be used to serve 4 qualifying and defined populations of those who are at risk of homelessness or who are experiencing homelessness. So sort of homeless as defined by HUD, at risk, fleeing domestic violence or human trafficking, or a member of a population that would have other risk factors that could put them at risk for homelessness. So veterans, as an example, is one of those. So I've been reaching out to the veteran service officer, met with Beacon, just community groups around. There's a list of folks you have to get input from, but I'm trying to go beyond that a little bit. And so those are the folks that the funds have to be used to help in some way or another to reduce the risk.
City Attorney Larry Allen asked the Commission to approve of an annual resolution for the maintenance of the properties owned by the Redevelopment Commission.
This is similar. We do this every year just in terms of the property that's owned. This is the same amount as 2022, so an overall global amount of $250,000. The reason why it was raised from 2021 and 2022 and continuing on through this year is just the RDC now owns some of that Hopewell property, which incurs some more maintenance and some other costs. But every other portion of this has largely remained the same, which is to say that anything that's over $5,000 has to be approved by you all, so we'd have to bring that to a meeting. If it's an emergency, we'll do that at the next available meeting just so that you could ratify those costs and kind of explain it to you. And if there's a utility bill specifically that exceeds $2,500, which would be unusual for any of these properties, then we'll also present that to you at a meeting. Otherwise, we pay that out of we call it the 444 account because that's how it's numbered in our internal New Hope accounting system. It is the unrestricted account for the RDC. So as opposed to TIF funds, which have significant restrictions on them, there are funds that can be used for maintenance, which is what that 444 account contains, and that's why we use that specifically for maintenance. So if there is like a tune-up to an HVAC system or something like that, that's what we use this for.
Commissioner Sarah Bowerly-Dansman asked how often they reach the threshold for the money allotment, or if there was enough cushion. Ellen responded.
I just wanted to ask, how frequently do you reach that maximum threshold versus how much is there a cushion in that account?
We try to leave a little bit of a cushion. Obviously, if we get close to that maximum, we're going to come to you and kind of explain what's going on. What had happened a couple years before is we actually realized that we were pretty significantly exceeding it, so that was having to be approved on a case-by-case basis. So that's why we increased it a couple years ago to just account for all the additional property. And in an event that the RDC owns less property, then I think we could walk it back and kind of marry it to what the numbers are.
The resolution passed unanimously. The next Bloomington Redevelopment Commission meeting will be held on January 23rd. And that is all for CATSweek. Thank you for joining us. For CATS and WFHB, I'm Annalise Poorman.